Tomac, for the second time, he takes the #1 plate.
Become the champ, the now 3-time champ.
What do a Mississippi car dealer and a casino gambler have in common? They built the most dominant team in modern American motocross. Before factory support, before Yamaha handed over the 450 program, before the goat farm became a championship compound, in the early years, the owner didn't pay himself, and when sponsorship money ran dry, casino winnings kept the team alive. That fragile privateer operation didn't just survive, it took control. Before there was a team, there was Bobby Regan. And Bobby Regan is not the kind of guy you would expect to build a motorsports dynasty. He grew up in Wiggins, Mississippi, not exactly the motocross capital of the world. He was a football player first, a genuinely talented one, with enough ability to earn a spot at Louisiana State University. Then, a knee injury ended all that.
Football player, a good high school football player, got hurt really bad. I hurt my knee real bad. Went to LSU. I was gonna go there and play ball. The doctors operated on me. At that time, they couldn't do anything for a knee, and so they told me, said, "You're done, son."
Just like that, the athletic career he had been working his entire life towards was gone. So Regan did what driven people do when one door closes. He found another one. He went into the military, assigned to the Army Material Command out of the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. His job was designing, procuring, and testing helicopter armament systems.
I had to go in the Army when I got through with that. But with the degree I had, I worked in the Material Command, which is part of the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., worked on helicopter.
This is a man whose professional life was built around the idea that equipment cannot fail. When you're testing weapon systems for military helicopters, failure is not an option you negotiate with. It's not something you accept or explain away. You build the system right, or people die. That zero-tolerance philosophy for mechanical failure, Regan carried it with him for the rest of his life.
In the contracts is written down of what you got to achieve, and you can't fail. Well, I didn't put up with failures. And
after the military, he went back to Mississippi and took over his family's automotive business. Star Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, and Jeep, all in Wiggins. Running a multi-brand dealership taught him everything about financial management, supply chains, and keeping an operation solvent when the margins are tight. He had no idea yet where all of that discipline was going to land. Regan's first brush with the sport came through local woods enduro events in the Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama area. He got competitive quickly, and as competitive people tend to do.
And I rode enduros early on, and I was good. I rode national stuff and went to a motocross race. What am I doing riding in the woods? So that started me.
He started looking for talent to invest in. He identified a local rider named Keith Watson. Regan poured money, time, and genuine mentorship into Watson. He believed in the kid. Watson lost his life. That loss broke Regan. He walked away from the sport entirely for a full decade. Not a partial withdrawal, a complete stop.
She said, Keith got killed today, and his name was Keith Watson. He was from Houma, Louisiana, and I know nobody out here is going to ever hear of him, but he was absolutely a great rider, was going to be a top pro rider.
No races, no teams, no involvement. It took a father showing up at his door asking for help with his son, a Team Green Kawasaki amateur named Nathan Davenport, to pull him back in. That one conversation reignited something. Regan helped the Davenport family, realized the competitive fire was still burning inside him, bought a professional race hauler, and started recruiting riders from the Texas and Florida circuits. The groundwork for Star Racing had been laid. Star Racing became an official professional team in 1999. It entered the AMA Supercross and Motocross championships as a completely independent privateer operation. The name came directly from Regan's car dealership, Star Chevrolet. No dramatic origin story, no marketing genius behind it, just a man who named his team after the business that was paying for it. Running a privateer team at the professional level is genuinely brutal. You're competing against factory operations that have manufacturer budgets, works engines, and teams of engineers. You're doing it with aftermarket parts, sponsor checks that sometimes bounce, and a trailer held together by determination. Regan ran it like a military operation anyway. The team attracted hard-working riders like Keith Johnson and Eric Vallejo, and then something happened at the end of the 2003 AMA Supercross season that changed everything. Star Racing won the Supercross Privateer of the Year award, and with that award came a brand new Toyota truck for rider Keith Johnson.
There was a competition in the Privateer pits. They gave a new Toyota to the top Privateer team and rider, and that was us. We won that. Keith Johnson got the Toyota.
But here's the part of this story that almost nobody talks about. Regan has openly admitted in podcast interviews that for the first 5 years of the team's professional existence, he never paid himself a salary, not once. And the racing program was kept alive in large part by his wife, Loretta Regan, who was a professional casino slot machine player. That's not a joke. Loretta's gambling winnings paid for fuel, entry fees, and parts when the sponsorship money ran dry. She was bankrolling a professional motocross team with casino money.
And she liked to go to the casinos, but she was a professional person playing in the casinos. She supported the team for the first 5 years on her winnings.
By the early 2000s, Yamaha's existing 250 class support structure was in trouble. They'd been running their youth program through Yamaha of Troy, a legendary team that had enormous success in the late 1990s. But satellite programs were falling apart. Teams were not paying bills. Mismanagement was everywhere. Yamaha looked around the paddock for someone who ran a tight operation, someone who paid their bills and showed up prepared. They found Bobby Regan. The conversations that followed were reportedly not exactly warm. Yamaha executives questioned out loud whether a guy from rural Mississippi could actually compete with the established California-based factory teams. The phrase "redneck from Mississippi" was used in those discussions, and not as a compliment. Regan accepted the challenge anyway.
Try it out, because they told me, said, we know that you can run this thing and pay your bills and be a professional team, but can you win? They said, we don't think you can. You just can't. You know, you're competing with all these California people. How are you going to do it? You're from Mississippi. Well, where am I now?
Challenge accepted.
Star Racing became a fully supported Yamaha factory program starting in 2005. For a while, Star Racing and Yamaha of Troy ran parallel programs. Then the 2008 financial crisis hit. The legendary team shut its doors around 2011, and just like that, Star Racing became Yamaha's primary 250 effort. Here is where the story gets genuinely painful for a while. From 2005 to 2013, Star Racing was tethered to Yamaha's 5-valve carbureted YZ250F engine. This platform had been around for years and was hitting a hard ceiling. Meanwhile, rival manufacturers were rolling out 4-valve electronic fuel-injected motors that made the Yamaha look ancient. Star Racing had the best team structure in the paddock. They had military-grade discipline and a founder who refused to cut corners. And they still could not win championships because the equipment was simply outgunned. It was a grinding decade. Good riders came through and gave it everything they had. The bike was still outgunned, and effort doesn't win when horsepower's missing. What this era did produce, though, was the most important hire in team history. In 2003, a young Canadian named Brad Hoffman walked through the door fresh out of a technical institute and started as a mechanic. Hoffman had an almost uncanny feel for engine dynamics, fluid dynamics, and suspension behavior. He worked alongside team manager Alan Brown.
Brad Hoffman was with me. He was getting out of school in Canada, and Keith Johnson told me, said, we got to hire this guy. So we did, and it's turned into where he's my partner now.
A guy legendary in the paddock for being able to swap a blown engine in under 30 minutes, and former 125cc national champion Steve Lamson. Hoffman started extracting every single horsepower he could out of that outdated carbureted platform. He used combinations of GYTR, Cosworth, Crankworks, and Vortex components in closely guarded configurations that nobody outside the team was allowed to see or replicate. And over the years, Hoffman went from mechanic to engine developer to full co-owner of the team alongside Bobby Regan. The man who started wrenching bikes became the man who held the keys to everything. In 2014, Yamaha finally did something they should have done years earlier. They killed the 5-valve carbureted engine and introduced a completely redesigned YZ250F with a reverse cylinder, rear inclined engine layout, downdraft intake, and forward-mounted electronic fuel injection. This one engineering decision flipped the entire dynamic. Hoffman explained it simply. The air finally had a straight shot into the engine. Better air means better power. Add fuel injection, and the tuning ceiling doubled. The same amount of tuning work now produced twice the horsepower gains compared to the old 5-valve platform. Twice. Overnight, the Star Racing YZ250F went from being the underdog bike in the 250 class to being described in the paddock as a horsepower monster. Regan immediately locked the dyno rooms down. The proprietary engine mapping and internal specs that Hoffman developed were classified. Access to the engine building area was restricted. The no secrets out policy became one of the team's defining cultural rules. They had the weapon. Now they needed the soldiers. Bobby Regan didn't build a team culture. He built a combat environment, and he did it on purpose. When Jeremy Martin and Cooper Webb both turned professional in 2013 and entered 2014 with the new machinery, Regan made a deliberate choice rooted directly in his football background. He treated teammates like opponents. He fostered animosity. He wanted the two riders to genuinely dislike each other, compete ferociously against each other in practice, and push each other past limits they would never reach on their own. The psychological tension between Webb and Martin became real and intense. Regan not only allowed it, he stoked it.
Jeremy was winning motos by minutes. And he would pass Cooper too. But Cooper learned how to do it was a really learning stage for all of them.
The results were immediate. Jeremy Martin won the 2014 Pro Motocross 250 class championship. Regan made other team riders study Martin's riding. His cornering style, his ability to carry speed through turns without scrubbing momentum, became the technical standard the entire team was expected to aspire to. Then, in 2015, Martin defended that title, and Cooper Webb captured the 250 SX West Supercross Championship.
The 2015 Monster Energy 250 West Championship goes to North Carolina's Cooper Webb.
In 2016, Webb went back-to-back on the West title and then took the Pro Motocross 250 Championship before moving up to the 450 class. After Webb left, the wins kept coming. Aaron Plessinger was a different kind of rider. Tall, awkward-looking on a bike, exceptional in mud and unpredictable conditions. In 2018, he swept everything available in the 250 class, winning both the 250 SX West Championship and the Pro Motocross 250 Championship in the same year.
Aaron Plessinger back on top in Lucas Oil's Pro Motocross.
Then came Dylan Ferrandis. The French import brought a completely different energy. Aggressive, technically precise, with a riding style built for speed at every point in the track. Ferrandis won back-to-back 250 SX West Championships in 2019 and 2020, then capped his 250 career with the Pro Motocross title in 2020. Between 2014 and 2023, Star Racing captured roughly 45% of every available championship in the classes they competed in. That number is staggering when you say it out loud. Regan's management philosophy during this whole period was direct and ruthless. He provided the most powerful engines in the paddock. The riders were expected to perform. If a rider did not conform to the team's methods, if they refused to follow the skim the whoops, do not jump them mandate, if they did not work with the right intensity, they were replaced. No negotiations, no second chances beyond a point. Pulp MX ranked Regan number 4 on their list of the top 22 most powerful and influential people in motocross and supercross in 2022. Their exact note was that Regan's team was the one almost everyone wanted to ride for, but that if you don't perform there, you get tossed aside quickly. That's the deal, and everyone who walks through that door knows it. By the end of 2020, Yamaha Motor Corporation made one of the most significant decisions in the sport's recent history. Their internal 450 factory program was not winning. KTM and Kawasaki were beating them in the Premier class consistently. So in October 2020, Yamaha dissolved their own in-house 450 team and handed full operational control of the factory Premier class effort to Star Racing.
They called me about the 450 team and would we take it over? So that's where that started.
Yamaha, one of the oldest and most respected names in motorsport, decided their own engineers and managers could not compete as effectively as a team built by a car dealer from Mississippi who learned discipline in the Pentagon. That is an extraordinary vote of confidence. Star Racing took over the 450 program starting in 2021. They brought in Dylan Ferrandis, fresh off his 250 titles, and retained Aaron Plessinger. In that debut year, Ferrandis produced one of the best rookie 450 seasons in motocross history. He won the 2021 Pro Motocross 450 Championship a full weekend early, logging 6 overall victories, and only finished off the podium once all summer. Yamaha won Manufacturer of the Year. Star Racing was named Team of the Year. And while Ferrandis was doing that in the 450 class, the 250 program swept both coasts, with Justin Cooper winning the 250SX West and Colt Nichols winning the 250SX East. The machine was firing on every cylinder. Right alongside the 450 takeover, Star Racing made another enormous move. In January 2021, they left Southern California entirely and relocated to Cairo, Georgia, where they purchased the 94-acre private training facility that had previously belonged to Ricky Carmichael, the Goat Farm. If you know motocross, you know what that name means. Ricky Carmichael is the greatest of all time. His training compound in rural Georgia is where champions get made. The Carmichael family reportedly agreed to sell because they trusted Regan to treat the property as the serious training facility it was built to be, not to subdivide it or to develop it into something else.
They told me, and it wasn't just Ricky, but his mother, said we wouldn't sell this thing to anybody else. Because we know that you're going to make this into something. That's true.
Star Racing built a 12,000 square foot race shop on the property. The facility has machine shops, fabrication rooms, dedicated suspension clean rooms with custom travel cases used at races, and the engine dyno bays where Brad Hoffman does his most guarded work. The isolation is a feature, not a coincidence. By pulling everyone, riders, mechanics, management, into a compound in rural Georgia, Regan created the exact environment he always wanted. Boot camp discipline in a location where nobody can see what you're doing. The riders train daily on private tracks built on dense red Georgia clay, which simulates the exact conditions they face at national rounds. Nobody can spy on the dyno. Nobody can photograph the engine specs. Nobody can walk past and see what Hoffman's testing. The military-based logic fully applied to a racing team. For 2022, Regan wanted a proven weapon in the 450 seat. He signed Eli Tomac. Tomac is one of the best to ever do it. A rider with devastating late race speed, an engine-like physical endurance, and a work ethic that matched everything Star Racing stood for. The 2022 season was total domination. Tomac won the 450 Supercross Championship with 7 victories.
Familiar face, Eli Tomac. For the second time, he takes the number 1 plate.
Then took the Pro Motocross 450 Championship with 14 moto wins. He earned the ESPY Award for Best Athlete in Men's Action Sports. He led Team USA to a Motocross of Nations victory at Redbud. Christian Craig added the 250SX West title. It felt untouchable. 2023 looked even better at first. New YZ 450F generation, season opener win in Anaheim, a record-breaking 7th win at the Daytona Supercross. Then, in Glendale, Tomac notched his 51st career AMA Supercross win, moving him to 2nd on the all-time list. He was running away with the championship. Then came Denver. Tomac suffered a complete Achilles tendon rupture at that Supercross round. He was leading the standings. He had to watch the title slip away from a hospital room. That kind of injury, at that moment, doesn't just end a season. It rewrites it. With Tomac sidelined, Star Racing brought back a familiar face. Cooper Webb, the rider who had built his career on that blue Yamaha before leaving for Red Bull KTM in 2017, returned to the Star Racing awning late in the 2023 season. Webb had won 2 450 championships with KTM in 2019 and 2021. He knew what winning looked like and how to manufacture it. In 2024, Webb finished 2nd in the 450SX Championship and won the King of Paris title. Thumb injuries complicated the season for both him and Tomac during the SMX playoffs. Justin Cooper, transitioning from the 250 class, delivered a rock-solid debut year in the 450 outdoors, finishing 4th overall. Then 2025 happened. Webb went to the last round of the season with the championship still on the line. He'd fought through the entire year, 5 wins, 13 podiums, a title race that refused to hand him anything easy, and he closed it out. His 3rd career 450 Supercross championship, his first on a Yamaha.
Cooper Webb.
I mean, the most impressive thing was him picking up that trophy. Right.
Justin Cooper finished 3rd in 450SX and 4th in 450MX. Tomac, back from the Achilles injury, proved he was still a genuine force by finishing third in both the 450 MX and 450 SMX series. 3 elite 450 riders, all dangerous, all producing results. The thing that separates Star Racing from every other team in the sport is not just what they're doing right now, it's what they have coming. Haiden Deegan turned professional late in 2022. He's the son of Brian Deegan, freestyle motocross legend, and he arrived with more attention on him than almost any amateur prospect in recent memory. He delivered from day one.
Haiden has been the easiest person that I've ever worked with and will do exactly what you say. He and I are extremely close. He's an unbelievable athlete. And
in 2023, Deegan won the inaugural 250 SMX Championship and was named AMA 250 SX Rookie of the Year. In 2024, he captured the Pro Motocross 250 Championship and defended the SMX title. In 2025, he won the 250 SX West Championship and a back-to-back 250 MX title with 10 moto wins and 18 podiums across the outdoor season. He's now moving to the 450 class for the Outdoor Nationals in 2026. And he was still a teenager through most of this. Behind him, the amateur pipeline is already loaded again. Caden Dudney won the 2024 Amateur Rider of the Year award and took the Oakley Award for the fastest lap at Loretta Lynn's. Caden Manier won the 2025 SMX Next World All-Star Championship. Landon Gordon and Carson Wood are moving through the system too. Star Racing does not scramble to find talent when a rider leaves. The system feeds itself. That was by design. Regan and Hoffman built vertical integration with Yamaha's Blue Crew program specifically to avoid the expensive bidding wars that drain other teams. They find the talent early, develop it internally, and slide it directly into the professional program when the time is right. The machine doesn't run on riders alone, though. The 450 program is led by team manager Rich Simmons, promoted from within. Crew chief Jordan Troxel, engine builder Brian Kalma, suspension tech Ricky Gilmore. None of them parachuted in. They grew inside this structure. On the rider side, Alex Campbell works with Cooper Webb. Mikey Germain handles Justin Cooper. Brent Duff oversees Haiden Deegan's program. The same pattern repeats everywhere. Long-term loyalty, internal promotion, no shortcuts. The 250 side operates under Will Hahn and Jensen Hendler, both former racers who understand exactly what it takes to win at this level. Around them, Trevor Carmichael, Georgie Fry, Jake Butler, Jake Prince, Andrew Bergman, specialists who built their reputations. That's not a random collection of employees, it's a system. Every person on this team came up through the sport the hard way. That's the Star Racing way. You earn your place, you carry the workload, you do not take shortcuts. Start this story over in your head for a second. A football player who blew his knee out, a military officer testing helicopter weapons at the Pentagon, a car dealer from Wiggins, Mississippi, a man whose wife kept the operation alive by playing slot machines at casinos. That is how Monster Energy Yamaha Star Racing begins. And from those origins, from a privateer trailer with no factory backing and a creative funding model, this team built the most dominant organizational structure in American motocross history. They survived a decade of being outgunned on equipment. They survived the grief of losing a rider. They survived corporate skepticism from the manufacturer they eventually became indispensable to. They bought Ricky Carmichael's compound, locked the gates, and turned it into a championship factory. 18 AMA titles, over 179 professional victories, champions in the 250 class and the 450 class simultaneously, an amateur pipeline that replenishes the roster automatically, a management tree that produces leaders good enough to be poached by rival programs. Bobby Regan took the zero-failure military doctrine he learned in aviation and applied it to professional motocross. The result is a team that does not flinch, does not make excuses, and does not stop producing champions. And they're not done. Drop a comment below and tell us who your favorite Star Racing rider of all time is. Webb, Martin, Tomac, Deegan. There are some serious names to choose from. Thanks for watching, and stay wicked.